Today I'm going to show you how to replace the battery in your iPhone 6s Plus. It's not too complicated, and you can save a lot of money by doing the project yourself. You are going to need a screwdriver. I will link replacement parts and replacement tools down in the video description below. First thing, remove these two screws on the bottom of the iPhone. These are pentalobe screws. Then you can take your suction cup and metal pry tool and lift up gently on the frame of the screen and the frame of the phone, making sure not to put any pressure on the screen at all, because if you crack your screen, this will turn into a much more expensive repair. There's a little bit of adhesive around the edge of the screen. As soon as I can fit my plastic pry tool in, I switch to that to cause less damage to the frame, and then I can lift the screen up from the main body. Be careful not to bend the screen past 90 degrees or you will damage the ribbon cables. There's two screws holding down the metal plate that protects the battery connector. Pop that off with your plastic pry tool. Then we can remove the screen connections. There's 5 screws holding down that metal plate, and then we can lift each of these little ribbon cables off like little Legos, unsnapping them one at a time and then lifting the screen off away from the body. Now here's the battery. The battery is held down with 3 adhesive strips underneath. You can grab these little strips and pull them out. Be careful though, they are really fragile. If you catch any of the little strips on the corner of that Taptic vibrator motor, it will rip the adhesive and then break the adhesive and making the whole battery much harder to pull out. I was a lot more careful with the second one and still managed to damage it. So let's try this third one, being super careful not to touch it against any of the components down by the charging port. And luckily with this third one, I was able to pull it all the way out, removing the entire strip of adhesive from underneath the battery. 1 out of 3 is not too bad, but it definitely makes the repair harder now that I still have 2 adhesive strips under there. Here you can see kind of how the adhesive looks. It's kind of like has a rubbery feel to it. Anyway, here goes the pry of shame. Now that I have 2 adhesive strips still underneath the battery, I'm using a plastic pry tool. If you manage to puncture your battery, it will damage your phone, so be very, very careful and don't use anything metal underneath that battery. I pulled out one of the remaining adhesive strips and then lifted the battery off of that last one. You can see how it reacts and holds to the back of the phone. For this video, I'm just using normal double-sided tape. I will link more professional adhesive strips down in the video description. You can take your new battery, which I linked in the video description as well, plug it into the bottom. And then I'm going to plug in my screen to test and make sure everything functions. Sometimes the batteries do arrive dead, so plug them in and let them charge up for a while if your phone doesn't immediately turn on. Everything looks good. The screen is functioning. If you have lines or your screen is gray after you plug it back in, your connections might be bad, so just unsnap those ribbon cables and snap them back in and hopefully everything works. Screw the 2 screws in down by the connector for the battery. Get the 5 screws in for the top plate and all those ribbon cable connections. Then you can line up the top of the screen with the top edge of the frame and then gently press down on the screen, working your way from the top to the bottom. Get the bottom 2 pentalobe screws in and everything is good. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you're super bored, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I do post a lot of pictures behind the scenes. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you around.